Welcome back to another episode of Driving Thoughts. My name is Steven Adams. I own Moxie Hair Salon in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And almost the sun is starting to set, so hopefully we'll still have a little bit of light while I'm driving. I just got done driving my son to college. And it's always good to reflect. So right now what I'm reflecting a little bit about is education. I just went to college. I just took my son to college. And back to school, back to university, as they would say. And he is studying and getting ready he wants to become a professor. And he's preparing himself for, another 6 years of education. Whoa, look at that. So, let's see if I can get the sun to block that out a little. Not really. There we go, a little bit. So, we just got a little bit of sunlight left, so we're going to try to do a little bit while we're talking here. Education. Education and how everything comes down to education. What does that mean? It's like so vague. As a salon owner and as a stylist, it's funny. I hear about this all the time. I want to be an educator. I want to be a platform artist. Let's see. I want to do education on YouTube. I want to blah, 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 whatever. I want to become an education director for a company. I want to do blah, 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 education. Everybody's talking about education. Well, what the heck does that mean? What does it really mean? Education. Well, let's go take a couple steps back. And I think that let's not even talk about the hair world right now. Let's just talk about life. Education, in my mind, has started since the day we were born. The day we were born, we started our education. We started to hear everything around us. Because when we were born in this world, we didn't know how to speak. We didn't know how to do pretty much anything. I mean, we slobbered. Yeah, we pooped a little. We peed a little. That was it. And then we cried. That was our foundation. And from there, we had to learn a multitude of things. We had to learn where we fit in the world. We had to learn how to deal with different cultures, different environments. We had to understand how to read. We had to understand how to speak, how to hear, how to listen. We had to keep improving. Then we were forced to go into elementary school. Then we were forced to go into middle school. And then we were forced to go into high school. And we had all of this education pushed down our throats. We were forced to follow a system. And just everything was regimented. This is what you can learn. This is what you can't learn. This is what does work. This was what doesn't work. And we were so force-fed our education. There's pros and cons to this, but it's all going to lead back into how does this affect the salon. Because that foundation of how we dealt with that education when we were younger is how we're going to deal with the education that's offered to us through the rest of our life. Our whole life, this is just my philosophy, our whole life, from birth to death, should be about one thing: continuing to improve. We need to constantly continue to improve. And making sure that we have that process process in our head, it's really actually very difficult, because we're also creatures of habit. And so it's kind of fights against each other. But we are sometimes find ourselves to be a creature of habit. And habit is not always in our best behavior. It's not always looking out for us for our best. Our best is when we're constantly improving, and we're constantly growing, and we're constantly learning. Because as we learn, we improve. I can use an example of this one. Here we go. I love music. Growing up, I really loved music. I mean, I would pick up I'd go to any instrument, and I could figure out how to play it, and just like make some noises, and it would sound kind of cool. And I loved listening to other music and listening to musicians, and it drove me and really made me excited. I'd just get all like, I love music. This is a downfall of mine. So my parents were like, well, you know what? A good solid foundation of music, if you're going to learn to become a good musician, you got to learn how to read music. Great place to learn to read music? Piano. So you should take piano lessons. I learned really quickly something. I like the idea of music and me playing music, but I don't want to learn how to play music. Did you just hear that? Right? Yes. I did not want to learn how to play music. So my music teacher and my piano teacher was trying to teach me how to play the piano, and I would fight it. And I would also come up with the word, I can't. Nope, I can't. Can't do that. Can't. Nope. It wasn't that I couldn't. It's that I didn't want to. I made a choice to be content of thinking that I was busy enough and that I was good enough doing what I was already doing. Because I could sort of pick up an instrument and sort of play it. In my mind, that was good enough. And I was not willing to learn how to actually play the instrument. And trust me, it holds me back. Because I think I can write some decent songs. And I have played in bands before and blah, blah, blah. But realistically, at the core, I'm a terrible musician. Because I don't understand how music works, technically. Because I was good enough to get by, but I didn't understand the core of it. Alright, so what does this have to do with education? Well, it has a lot to do with education, because education is a lifelong learning. And to become really good at something in life, we have to constantly push ourselves to become better and to learn and to grow. And in this piano case, I wasn't willing to do what it took to become successful. And so obviously I did not become a musician of any kind. In fact, most people look at me and like, he's okay, but he's creative. Or my favorite, his music's kind of interesting. It's my favorite, interesting. So we do know this much. I'm not that good of a musician, but I can get by. So when I moved into the hair world, I found that it was really excited me. Really made me excited. And I've gone through phases where like it got exciting, then I got content to where I thought I got my ego was in the way and I was way too cool for school, to like back to I don't really know what I'm doing, to I'm just doing enough to get by. You go through these phases, education and through your career, kind of just like, where are you going today? And you got to understand and see those and feel them. Even though this was my passion, I've lost my passion sometimes. Even though this is my destiny, I sometimes don't want to do it. But when it comes down to the core of it, I know that this really is what I want to do. And I really know that I love what I do. It makes me feel happy. And a part of it that makes me feel happy is the constant drive to be better. And I always want to be better. And I think this is an important part of education for any field. If you want to be better and you have the desire to be better and you're willing to do what it takes to become better, then you'll be happy because you love your career or you love your life or whatever it might be. For me, it was really being happy and loving my career and constantly wanting to improve. So I made sure, and I made a point ever since I was in beauty school, to always go to a hair show at least once a year. So I'd go to a trade show. When I'd go to a trade show, I'd make sure that I always attend at least one or two classes that I really wanted to like learn on. Now this was something that I set 28 years ago. That crazy thing, 28 years later, I'm still going to hair shows. I've never missed a year where I did not go to at least 1 to 5. I usually go to 1 to 5 trade shows every year. Now the funny thing is I don't always consider trade shows education anymore. Now on top of that, I usually try to find anywhere from a 2 to a 5-day academy, at least once, maybe twice a year that I attend. Now, it doesn't matter what academy it is. It doesn't matter what brand it is. It doesn't matter what education. It doesn't matter if I've seen them before. I still attend and go. Why do you think that is? The constant thing is I want to improve. So the best way to improve is to repeat something. This much I learned in piano. If you play the same song over and over and over and over, which is boring, but you play it over and over and over and over and over, eventually you're going to get it 100% right and you're never going to get it wrong. It takes a long time. Unless, of course, you're a prodigy. But it takes a long time to be able to just like play that over and over and over until you get it always right. When it comes to hairdressing and you wanting to become a great hair cutter or a great colorist, you can only focus on one thing at a time. For the first 10 years of my career, I spent really concentrating on hair cutting. Then I switched my career at that point, and I really started focusing all my education on my next subject, which was color. So I really focused on color for the next pretty much almost 10 years. So about 8 years ago, I've been kind of fluctuating back and forth between cutting and color, and I do both services in the salon, so I want to make sure that I keep up on both. So now I take some color classes a couple of times a year so that it refreshes my color brain, and then I focus on my technical side of hair cutting because I got to refresh my technical side, and I really bounce back and forth. Now I have one more focus. So the next few years, my focus are really going to be on styling, braiding, and really focusing on that because I want to become a master of that. Because I did a braid the other day and it was terrible. Oh my God, it was like the worst thing ever. I'm like, I felt so bad I had to take it out. You know, it's like you want to build education into your life and understand when you need to work on something. You know, it's funny when you do. I did a braid, and that client was just like, that was their look. They weren't overwhelmed. Now, I have two things at this point when someone does like they're not overwhelmed. If they're not overwhelmed with my cut or my color or my braid, whatever it might be, if a client isn't overwhelmed with the quality of it, there's two choices. Well, there's actually three choices. Just three choices of what we can do. The first one, this is the most common, is we get pissed off. We're like, they just don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate what I did. No, they didn't like it. And they'll appreciate it if it's like really amazing quality. But if someone's underwhelmed, we could get upset about it and angry. We could be all upset and angry. That's one thing. That's number one. Two, we could just ignore it. Pretend like we didn't even see it. Oh, what do you mean? What? Oh, yeah, it looks great. I think it's awesome. Cool. Let's book your next appointment. Just ignore it. Or we could do the third thing, which I think is the most important. The third thing is so important. This is part of education. Acknowledge. Yeah. This didn't quite turn out exactly how I envisioned. It's okay though. Let's try to make you happy on this. Turn it back to the client, making sure that you make them feel good. Let me see if I can get some help so I can learn more. Or, you know, is this okay for you to live with until next time? And I'll really study up the next 6 weeks and really master this so that next time that you come in, I got it down. Education. When a client is not happy, 90% of the time it means that we don't quite understand what we're doing. Every once in a while, there's a Fruit Loop out there. Once in a while. If you're always getting Fruit Loops and everybody's not happy, there's something wrong. You gotta understand what that is that's wrong, look at it, and then work on it. Improve. Have to improve. Whether it's your technical skills, maybe it's just how you talk, maybe it's how you're listening. Education is about all of those things. It's not just about technical. You'd still want technical education because you want to be able to do any service perfectly without thinking. So you can never get it wrong. If you can get it never wrong, then you're doing really, really well. But until you can never get it wrong, you want to keep going. There was a point in time in my career, there was this point in this time, and it was kind of like I had about 3 different haircuts. I would say this is probably about my 3rd or 4th year into doing hair. And I had about 3 or 4 haircuts, and I would approach every haircut exactly the same way, doing those same 3 or 4 haircuts. And they were good. I was really good at those 4 haircuts. I knew exactly what to do for a small, short pixie. I knew exactly what to do for a nice bob. And I knew exactly what to do with long layers. And I knew exactly, and I did exactly the same thing. And the funny thing is, maybe it's broke it down technically, the haircut that I did for the long layers, the graduated bob, the short layers, they kind of all were the same. So I was kind of doing the same thing, same motions, all the time. And I did that for probably like 2 years. And I was getting my ego boosted because I was busy. I was a busy stylist. And I was so busy behind the chair, but I was so busy that I was constantly doing those same things over and over and over and over. And then I started getting bored. And then I started doing less great customer service. And I was letting my ego get in the way, so I was kind of all cocky, like, well, I don't have to worry about that because, you know what, I'm so good at doing this haircut. And it was so stuck in my way. It wasn't until somebody bopped me up beside the head a little bit and was like, get your shit together. Dude, what are you doing? And it was that, and it was also the fact that I was like, maybe at my top, I'm doing the best I've ever done. I'm doing great. I got these haircuts. I'm so busy. Everyone loves me. I've reached my pinnacle. I'm done. Maybe I should stop doing hair. And I really, this seriously went through my mind. I've only been doing hair for 3-4 years. You know, I might have been making like $1,500 a week in services or something simple like that. I was just like, oh, so good. Oh, I'm so great. Oh man, it's just like, to think about it, it's like, you know what it was? I lacked education and knowledge. And what happened was I happened to go to, I really remember this quite clearly. I happened to be invited with a company that I work with to go to New York. And we toured some salons. We went and looked at Orbe. He was doing his stuff. John Sahag, Frederick Fekkai, and Bumble and Bumble. We went and toured all these salons in New York. This is my first time in New York. I was in Minneapolis and I thought I was hot shit. You know, it's like 80, must have been like what, early 90s, maybe 89, 90, somewhere in there, 91. I thought I was the fucking shit. Excuse my language. And I went to New York. And all of a sudden, one day, I had an epiphany. Because I went and I saw how Orbe cut hair. I then saw how John Sahag cut hair. Then saw what they were doing at Bumble and Bumble with razors. This is where I met Nick Rojo. And then I also saw what Frederick Fekkai was doing. So in one day I saw dry cutting from John Sahag, where he would like blow his hair out, cut it all 100% dry, and then shampoo it back and style it. So everybody got 2 shampoos. I saw Orbe with his little bit crazy artistic styling ability, and he was just molding hair and just moving, and how he was approaching it. And Frederick Fekkai with his French cutting and how he was cutting from the top down and building his weight and then building it down to the edges. And then I ended up seeing some Sassoon stuff out there. And when I saw that was like very structured, building everything up. And all of a sudden it was like, wait, not one of these people are cutting hair like I do. They're all busier. They're all making more money. They all have different styles. And it dawned on me I was stuck in a rut. Because I was doing the same things over and over and over, trying to get a different result. What that really encouraged me is to start pushing myself to become obsessed with every type of technique out there. So whether it's French cutting, whether it's English cutting, whether it is dry cutting, whether it is editorial styling, whatever it is, I force myself to improve and constantly improve. And the crazy thing is I thought I was amazing only bringing in, $1,500 a week. In the 80s, I was really awesome. Till 10 years later, 8 years later, I was bringing in $4,000 or $5,000 a week in services. And not really charging that much more. Because it's not about how much you charge, it's about what you produce and what you bring in. And the reason I ended up getting better and doing more was because I was opening my mind to more opportunities to be more creative. Because when you're doing one thing, you can't be very creative. When you're doing two things, you can't be creative. But when you know how to do everything and anything, you get to be really creative. And as you become more creative, your customers will love you. Education is the key to becoming successful. It's the one thing that drives you. It's not a chore. There's not a time frame to it. It's something that has to continue for your lifetime. And every waking moment of your life needs to be improving and growing. Because that is how you truly become successful. And it's also how you become not bored in your career. So, it looks like sunlight is almost out. This has been Driving Thoughts. Once again, Steven Adams. Enjoy.